Hello, and welcome to Emerald Thoth with me, Mark. Hope you're doing well today. Here to bring you some messages from Spirit out in the woods again today. So, nothing channeled to start with, no 30-minute prelude to today, but I'm just gonna let the cards speak and see what messages are coming through today and see what's happening in the energy. Gonna take one of each of the 4 decks that I have and can go from there. Okay, Spirit. This card for the crows. See what else Spirit has to say from the Time Traveler's Oracle. And then Secrets of the Ancestors. See which card wants to come out, that one does. And then finally one from the Divine Master's Oracle. See what message Spirit has today. The Divine Master wants to come out at some point. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know the other cards at the moment, but the Divine Masters that eventually came out was Metatron and Sandalphon. Sacred Connection. So this card talks about synchronicity, divine connection, understanding, lessons. At the bottom of that deck was Melchizedek with divine knowledge. This is an interesting card. It gives a sense of Gemini, like the twins or the lovers. Sacred connection, synchronicity, divine connection, understanding, lessons. It gives me a resonance of partnership, of a divine counterpart, or twin flame, or as I like to say, eternal soulmate, or just love connection. Whatever way you want to perceive or how you feel your connection is and where you are at this moment in time. Also a sense of union, divine union as well within yourself, a little bit of a yin and a yang kind of energy in there as well. Very light and bright and angelic to archangels. Divine connection and understanding, lessons and synchronicity gives a sense of you being in that connective flow. And if we're talking about divine counterparts or twin flames or any kind of soulmate connection, then for sure it starts to come into a question of your divine connection, because even a soulmate connection is quite a difficult thing to understand. The love that it incorporates is quite strong for a human being, and that it often goes past the normal boundaries and structures we have of, I work with this person's from another culture, age gap sometimes, gender gap sometimes, but those soulmate connections are such a strong pull that it goes beyond the mind, really, even the emotional mind. It can even stretch beyond that times. And a twin flame or eternal soulmate connection, then you start to have a spiritual journey as well, and a mission and awakenings that are involved in that. So this gives a sense of a high level connection foundationally that you have with spirit and source, and that you're guided by synchronicities. And then it talks about understanding those lessons, and this may be the process we're going through, is a process of lessons, whoever's connected to this video, of strengthening that divine connection with source, and then strengthening that in the connections that we have outside of that, outside of ourselves, so within ourselves and then outside of ourselves. So let's see the ancestors' message. The martyr, sacrifice and self-reflection, number 12, equivalent to the hanged man. This particular one I always like to flip as to where you're going, but I'll put it back as hung upside down. It gives a sense of beauty all around you, the colours of the roses and the chakras and the cosmic kind of enlightenment here. It's quite a nice place to be in. And it seems it is this particular part, this particular energy today is talking about you're focusing on your connection with the divine, you're strengthening that connection with the divine. Very kind of hermit type. The hanged man is going through the waters of your own emotions, kind of Neptunian energy. And it talks about finding that enlightened kind of connection in that isolation, in that solitary phase, or in this particular day or this particular moment for whenever you would be watching this. It's keeping the energy to yourself to grow and process and to connect with something higher. So number 9, we have creativity. From the Time Traveler's Oracle, the Venice Renaissance, Italy. You could say the Renaissance rather than the Venice, but in Venice and the Renaissance, Italy. And a solitary kind of figure here, an artist. You could be an artist yourself. You could sing, write, draw, paint. I mean, we're all creators in a sense. But, you know, you could be in an artistic sense, a creator. And that you're working on your art, or you're working on your job, or you're working on yourself. You are creating a masterpiece as such, and doing it in sort of a solitary fashion, with a divine union, like as high as you possibly can, to create from the highest possible kind of source. It gives me a sense of channeling as well, something very creative. And in Renaissance times, it was a lot more expressive. I sometimes yearn for Renaissance times myself, because that kind of period was a lot more well enlightened in Europe anyway, because of the different ideas that came through, the different ways of being, even the way that they saw genius. In those times, I believe people had something called a daemon. You could say demon, but it doesn't really mean that. It means like a spark of genius. Whereas today we're very individualized, and we say that person's a genius. We'll go that and attach it to them very egoically in the mind. But I think a lot of us think that genius and brilliance and out of this world creativity comes from out of this world, comes from a source. It's inspired, which means to breathe in, and it's breathed into us by source. For us to claim it to ourselves is very individualistic, is almost a little bit narcissistic, and is very symptomatic of the modern world. But you within yourself can find this creativity and can find this artist within you, most prominently from sacred connection, divine connection. And that would take a strengthening, and that's maybe a period in you, a strengthening with that connection through being in suspension at the moment. And from the crows, well, again, protection. Very insular theme to this reading today. Protection gives a sense of you are being divinely protected, you are in the egg ready to hatch. These are your divine guides, this is yourself in physical form, in union, working through your shadow and working on your own creations and protecting them and keeping them warm, but with that shell at the moment for protection. So, a strong sense of being in the cocoon and coming out as the butterfly, coming out as the artist. Like, you have something to birth in this world, but you can't birth it too soon because it may not be strong enough, or you are that creation in a sense, or anything that you create, you are the parent of that creation, so you have to be able to look after whatever you create, because the world will take creations and change them. Even if something becomes popular, it can be misused and misconstrued. I'll take another Time Traveler's card to follow on from the creativity, just to get a few more messages out. Number 10, deliberation. So 10, the end of cycles. At the feet of Lao Tzu, China. Again, it's talking to a process of deliberation. At the bottom of the deck is truth, and just below that is exuberance and flow. So to come is you stand in your truth, and you speak your truth, and you create your truth, and exuberance comes, you are with people again, and you are in flow. But this moment in time is the liberation. The bamboo is here again. Bamboo, which takes time in the ground, but then shoots up quite rapidly out of the ground and grows and grows and grows, but is strong and flexible at the same time as it grows quite quickly. So again, it gives an idea of shoots. It gives an idea of this thing that you're hatching. At the bottom of this deck currently is 5, trust the path with the shaman. Again, that takes patience. It talks about divine connection. Underneath that is the chiefess, the chiefess strength tested. So, the strength card doesn't normally talk about testing in terms of strength. It talks about cultivating strength, having inner strength. But this is talking about strength tested, which, how do you know how strong you are until it's tested, to be honest? But that gives a sense there that you're building that strength as you are ready to rapidly grow, and maybe in that phase now, but you're also to trust the path and trust that divine connection. The Hierophant shaman normally talks about that divine connection. Okay. Well, the card that came out was the Creature of Earth. Take charge, the same as the Knight of Pentacles. So it's asking you to take charge of your own creativity, of your own self, of your own sacred connection. I think nobody should be able to change your sacred connection. That is really to you. You can be influenced by others, but the internal is a lot harder for people to take than the external. And so you are in charge, and you're slowly processing and slowly materializing whatever that connection is and whatever you create with it. Again, it could talk to divine connection with somebody, and the twins, conscious connections. It can be any connections in general, and it could be you're growing together, but maybe not together in 3D, but there's a sense of growth. And this can relate to, you may have a partner that you know in mind is like that. You maybe don't have anybody and you're working on yourself, and that's perfect, because if you're working on yourself, you are making space to call that in. Or you may have someone and you're making space with them in mind or at the back of your mind, but you have to make choices as you go, and in the end you just have to move, taking risks, be with the full possibilities and potential. And again, this is further back underneath here to say, in time things will happen, but you're in a deliberation phase, you're in a self-reflection and understanding phase here clearly, and eventually that will lead to the harvest, the matriarch here, similar to the Empress. But this moment in time, it's holding for something to come in the future. Let's take some messages from the crows. Number 7, cachet. 7 talks of victory, talks of overcoming obstacles, talks of bringing heaven down to earth, taking the necessary steps sometimes, and it's also considered a lucky number in a number of cultures. In here it's got caching, so again a sense of storage, a sense of working on something underground. Caching is, working the order of things are as they are put aside. So you could be caching creative projects, you could have a number of creative projects that you're keeping aside, or working on different things and pulling each thing out at different times, and that can be the different connections that you have in your life. At the bottom of this deck is number 2, Anomaly. Now that's quite a strong card and a strong message from this deck, and the white raven is incredibly rare, or the white crow is incredibly rare. But this could be you as you hatch, as you come out, as you stand out. It also gives elements of the swan that molts its kind of fur, its feathers, molts its feathers, and then becomes white, and from what the story of the ugly duckling. But as you this process that you're doing, this creative process, the deliberative process, this maybe slow moving process, is leading to you standing out bright and beautiful as a beautiful, bright, unique, rare anomaly. Okay, let's take one last message from the Divine Masters with this. Okay, at the bottom is Kutsumi initiatory experience. Your current situation is initiating your gifts, and that follows everything. It's initiation, it's understanding, it's working on that sacred connection. Understanding the lesson, seeing the synchronicities, and it's moving you and encouraging you to keep that connection as you go and you create things. And overseeing all of this is one of my favourite cards to come out is Thoth. And it's telling you to trust that path and process as you emerge from the cosmic egg, as such as you emerge from this cocoon. That the teacher awakens, the student becomes the master. Maybe a little bit out of nowhere at some point, like this bamboo, like a master here, like Lao Tzu, or like the shaman, or the Hierophant. And Thoth is speaking to this divine connection. You can see this almost very embedded, that kind of connection, that golden connection in the crown. Cosmic knowledge, and almost in this particular card, a little bit of a kind of peacock element, that your light is on show. Not everyone will see that because it's a light kind of body. It's not like a traditional peacock feathers, but it's got that essence of that. And so you're awakening, but you're awakening as a master. You are the student. You will continue to be the student, and in some ways you have mastered many things already. But in a grander creative sense, in what you can bring to the world, it's saying you're awakening to becoming the master. And so with that then is the road that you're on, is this patience, is this taking charge in a slow and steady and methodical way, and keeping this divine sacred connection that you have. So there's lots of things to come with that and that birthing, lots of good things, lots of good connections, lots of standing out, lots of exuberance, lots of flow. But at this moment in time, you're deliberating, but you're deliberating methodically with purpose. You're using patience for purpose, and that is a brilliant, beautiful thing. So keep going. I believe in you. I love you.